SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil with SFJ4x4 Simpson Family Jeeps, and I'm joined in Grandma's Couch Studio
by the maddest mad scientist, Scott Brown, sitting over there looking fly with the American legend SFJ 4x4 hoodie.
That's fair. and that guy over there is the producer in Orange Spooky Season.
Yeah,
hoodie.
that signature limited edition spooky season one we released a couple years ago. That well, when
love
we
this
release, I know you do. When we release a limited edition, it's out and then it's done. You know what I mean? So
That's why I never wear mine because I don't want to ruin it.
right. And when we do a merch drop, I mean that's you got to get on it or you don't. You know, and
Yep.
we've got the Creeping It Real T-shirt drop right now, which is pretty cool. And then I know that. The Savage has been working on a specifically a Christmas one. I'll be honest with you guys, and so we've once again he intentionally skipped right over
I hear you.
Turjeepin season.
Turkey Day.
Oh man,
So today we're actually going to be talking about paint in Jeeps. And I know that's not exactly a strong topic for you, which is ironic because of all the topics Jeep, you would think you would know paint, and you just don't.
I just
care
don't
about
care.
paint.
I don't care, and I thought it was you guys had suggested the topic. You kind of communicated it to me, and I love the idea, and I love bringing kind of the depth of what you guys have prepared to our listening audience. But I am not a paint guy.
No.
Right? And folks,
But you are a history guy, and we're going to start with the history of paint.
and I love contextualization in history, right?
And we're going to talk about the future of paint with self-healing.
And that's what you were talking. And I'm here for it. And of course, I don't expect people to be like U-joint crazy, like I am, or like grease and oil. Like, so I kind of exist to like care about the stuff that nobody cares about, and then like paint, which seemingly a lot of people care about. I could give, two figs. So I'll be bringing that perspective. So if you like patina and rat rods and old school stuff, and, if you're just like, hey, it's got pinstripes, I know you it's one of your favorite paint additions to your truck.
Oh, yeah, well, different kind of pinstripe, I think.
I'll be here to, exactly. I'll be here to kind of add that to the conversation. But mentioning... our listening audience, we do want to take a moment to recognize everyone who has prioritized us as their listening infotainment. Understand that Jeffrey's about to jump into the comments, but if you are listening at a later date, you too can join us almost every Monday at 10:19 a.m. In the comments, we go
Eastern
live.
Standard Time.
Eastern. And we go live on the Book of Faces or the YouTubes, and we encourage you to jump into the comments and share with people, and you may get your comment read on air. And we thank the people who do that, but equally all the people who prioritize listening to us in their ear holes across the world, 6 out of the 7 continents and 90 plus countries. Thank you so very much for making this podcast an important part of your Jeep and off-road and automotive experience.
So in the comments, we got Billy Joe saying good morning, everyone. We got Jeannie saying good morning, and she loves the Creeping at Real shirts. Giaga Jeeper saying good morning. Mike Lentz saying good morning. Missing Remote says paint with a orange swatch, so they must like the color orange. We got Knight Rider Jeep saying morning, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Good morning to everyone. I saw the best orange Gladiator over the weekend.
That is not a common thing.
That is not a common
That is
thing. In
not
fact,
common.
my son and I kind of remarked, and honestly, the orangeness that it was is the orange of Jeffrey's hoodie. I mean, it was a bright orange. And I thought that was really interesting because I kind of don't remember that pumpkin-y orange color as an option for our gladiators.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was kind of fun personally to see that. And as far as paint goes, there are certain aspects of it that I can appreciate, but for the vast majority of the paint and exterior coating, I simply don't care. Now, that is coming from a guy who, when I was 15, I had my first car at 15, I did paint my car. And I think that through that process, it had the classic 80s, lifting clear coat, and it was supposed to be.
We'll get there.
It was supposed to be kind of a fire engine red. Of course, always biased to that.
Uh-huh.
And it had marooned out and all, sun faded, sun beat. So I painted it. And in that process, I discovered not only do I not super care about the, colors, but I absolutely hate personally painting a vehicle.
Absolutely.
Now, I got to ask, did you actually do the process where you sand it down to the metal, you prime it, and then you paint it?
I'm sure he started that process.
Well, so that
And then the care got less and less.
So the
and
reason
less.
I ask is because I absolutely did this with a Chevy Lumina that was faded out, and I sanded it all down, took the time to do all the sanding right. Then I started with the primer, and it absolutely drove around till I traded it in. Half primed, half painted.
So I need you guys to know. I need you guys to know. And this is what I think puts me in a unique perspective, because I know that, Scott, your vehicles only ever make it to primer.
Pretty much.
Yep.
And I appreciate your honesty and your story, Jeff. I need everybody to know. This is one of the gentlemen that I consider to be an amazing mentor of mine in my automotive pursuits as a teenager. I actually worked this from start to finish.
He wouldn't let you stop, would he?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We used his garage. We took about a week to do it. He literally took me to one of the reputable paint shops, at the time.
30 days at the mass sanding a car.
It was the most awful experience of my life.
Yes.
Which is why you don't like it
sanding,
now.
Which is why I don't like it.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't like it. Which, if you are a person who likes painting a vehicle, I mean, I actually know people who like the prep work. They find it therapeutic. They, and they do beautiful work.
They don't want fingerprints.
And I'm like, that, God bless you. I mean, and I think that I'm self-deprecating, but that is completely different experience.
Absolutely.
That they enjoy that. But I did the whole process. He took me to the paint shop. I actually talked to the gentleman at that point in time. Again, we're talking, it was a different world. You had specialists, you had people who really cared about it, not some of the modern day paint experiences we're more conscientious of. Took me in. We actually got to look at and work with the mixer. We picked out the metal flake. We added the metal flake. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And I thought that was cool. And we were just going to tape and spray. What we didn't do was remove all the handles and strikers, and we didn't do that. But we did jam it. We did do all the things. And I still remember the bucket and the rawness of my fingers wet sanding down the classic 80s air quotes patina that it was. And then we sprayed it. And it was cool. I mean, it was cool. It looked cool. It did. But I never did it again.
So back to the comments real quick. Nate joined us, says good morning. Jerry Huber says good morning to the SFJ crew. Nate said pumpkin metallic is the best Jeep color. Then you got Jeannie saying her favorite color, and she misses that color as well for that pumpkin or orange. And then we got Roy saying good morning. Jaga Jeeper saying old school calico, square bodies, yellow fender, blue door, red bed, black hood. I know that too well.
Yes. Good morning to everybody, and I think it'll be fun. I always like to recognize Jerry's contribution to the Jeep community.
And he just did a paint job.
Well, he did on one of his resto mods on his CJ you were talking about, but Jerry, prior to his prolific career working at the Jeep assembly plant, started in the paint shop for Jeep Chrysler at that time.
Well, good. He can weigh in every time we make a mistake on paint today.
I'm counting on him. I'm counting on him. I know that's one of the fun facts about Jerry. So
anyway, I figure we should start where it all starts. And,
Bantam.
No, actually.
Federal regulatory.
We're not.
Quarter ton horses.
I know, he's bringing up horses.
I'm dead. And we're off the rails.
So
he's bringing up horses, folks.
I figured you talk about, back in the day, you could pick what color your horse was. And then you go into the early years.
Pick what color your horse is. Oh, my goodness.
He's crushing up berries, making war paint, painting the side of the horse.
Hey, whatever floats your boat. But anyway, so I thought it'd be fun to be like, why were Model Ts for the most part black?
And now we're on his friggin' Ford. 6 weeks of his Ford.
So the reason why they were black is black.
I'm going to go back to the title. Jeep.
Hold on.
Paint.
Just calm
Jeep
yourself.
Paint.
Calm yourself. They were black because he was the most frugal person, and black is the cheapest color to spray. Red is usually the most expensive color, and I figured that would be just a fun way to bring in that little tidbit for those that don't know.
There was also a time where there was some study done for insurance companies that red is the most pulled over color in the 80s and 90s. I don't know if it still is or not.
When you actually broke down the statistics, it was one of those where they changed the statistics to look the way they want. It was also the most popular color, so that was the most popular vehicle on the road.
And for a while,
statistically, of course, it would be the most.
If you had a sporty car, it was red.
Right.
So that was biased.
I remember that whole bias.
But
all right, so Henry Ford after the horses.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be cheap?
He works it in every episode.
Absolutely. It's a game at this point. I literally brought it up to Jeff. I was like, I know what I'm going to do.
I literally said, what, are you going to use horsehair brushes to paint the cars or something?
Yep.
And I didn't see that coming, how he brought it in.
That's your loss. Anyway, so really where we start thinking about Jeeps is World War II, and we have olive drab color. Drab.
Jeff and I just looked at us.
Anywho's. So the other thing I thought would be fun that most people probably don't know, and only reason I know is because I had way too much 6 weeks of World War II Jeeps. The original hood numbers that the Jeeps were born with were actually olive drab blue because they decided that color would disappear in photographs easier than, say, bright white. So when you see a Jeep in a photograph and it has white hood letters, that is in the barracks on the front lines getting painted. Because for those that don't know, if you're not getting shot at or running to or from, you're painting things in the Army. So
at that time, or greasing things,
And the other important thing is that we have people that are like, well, olive drab is olive drab is olive drab. No, there's a million different shades, and the Jeeps, when they were getting blown up, were 1,000 different greens, basically, because they'd paint this fender and then they have to run, so they're not going to get over there.
I have a question. Do you have experience painting green?
Too much. And again, for those that don't know, as the Jeeps progressed, as we went from one conflict to another, they actually changed the green depending on the area that they were stationed in. So, we're 80s babies, so we remember the tan Humvees and stuff. That's because we were in Desert Storm.
Sure.
And we're in a desert climate. Korea has a little bit more darker green than the Eastern conflict, so they had a different green, much to my dismay. If you had a gray Jeep, that was almost always a navy. I don't completely know why they chose that.
Right.
I
think they had leftover paint from the ships, and so they just painted the Jeeps.
Yeah, I probably, and I believe that the numbers on those were black. Again, it's kind of interesting. There's literally people curating their World War II Jeeps, and they take a layer of paint off at a time because they want to see if the numbers changed on the hoods as they go back in time, and when they find that blue number, they are all excited,
elated.
Yes. And same thing, they go after the bumpers. They don't know what company or anything like that it was in unless they actually uncover it. So it's like history of the vehicle.
Yeah, they're doing archaeology via paint.
Yes.
At that point,
100%.
And I appreciate that. And my grandfather, who was just a good kind of grandfather figure who was into Jeeps, who had served in the occupation forces following World War II,
Painting things.
and he was a tank gunner. But I was gonna lament the whole painting things conversation.
Yes.
To understand people's perspective may be shaped by today's framework, in the sense that we think about going to the paint store and getting an aerosol can, might be a 2-part can where you bust a hardener in the bottom of it.
Oh, that's fancy paint.
That's fancy paint. Or you can get paint at Tractor Supply and you're spray painting. These guys had buckets and a
100%.
brush.
I'm going to go to the comments real quick because Missing Remote says they were in Desert Storm, Desert Shield. So thank you for your service. Were you painting? I just want to know.
Just want to know.
That's right. That's
That's fair.
And I mean, the thing with my grandfather and honestly both my grandfathers, because it was about, if it was flaking, you scraped it. Otherwise, you just put another layer on.
100%.
And it was a gallon or a bucket and a brush, and you just put another layer on.
Yep.
Right. And that is so foreign by today's overly specified. You go to any Instagram reel or any YouTube and you're going to have 1,000 comments flaming people on the fact that there was not all this arduous prep work and you didn't scrub for 38 minutes and whatnot.
Absolutely.
No, the Jeep rolled up. If they dusted it with a cloth,
It was loved.
that was the most
That
prep
was the
work they
Colonel's
got.
Jeep.
That was the Colonel's Jeep. And otherwise, they cracked open a can that had already been open for 5 days.
Yes.
Skimmed off a little bit of a top layer, mixed it up, and brushed it off.
Because aesthetics didn't matter then. It was more about just getting some kind of coating for durability, some kind of corrosion preventative.
I don't even think it was for really durability at that point. It was really just to make it blend into the main area where they were
and
at.
that's fair.
And that very well could be.
It was honestly probably more for just appearances, so they could look cohesive.
I know that in
easy
my-
to maintain in the field.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going with just my grandfather's like their approach though. It was like, if one coat was good, another coat was better. I
Absolutely.
had wrought iron railings that we had like 11 coats of black on there. And I remember painting a house again. They had me painting at about 10, 11, 12, and you scraped it. And that's how we painted as a society. We scraped just the big sheets, and then you layered on another layer.
Oh, yeah, and you get a chip of paint, and you got a crater now, and you're like, well, why is there 10 layers in there?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct. So just kind of a different social perspective than by today's standards. And I think that that's so valuable to kind of keep in perspective.
So that gets us kind of into, post World War II. And
Well, wait. Let's go back to the World War II paint. What kind of paint was it?
So I believe it was lacquer.
It was a single-stage enamel.
Oh, it was enamel.
Yeah.
Touche. Into the 50s, I know they went to a lacquer style paint.
Is that in your notes,
The
Jeffrey?
45s to the 60s was a 2-stage paint with a primer and a top coat, which would be more what you're talking about.
And what I was going to say about the 50s colors is I think we kind of were tired of the black and the drab and the kind of suck that World War II was. So I think that's why you see, bright white cars, bright red.
That's where the reds, blues, and yellows really
More
started.
fun colors. We're trying to liven things up and kind of not make it so suck. And that's why, when I think of a CJ2A, the first civilian Jeep, most of them seem to be red, or I just found red ones for some unforeseen reason.
There was some brighter greens or
Yes.
some more desirable greens.
Yep.
I think of the 50s having this. I don't exactly want to use the pastel, but it has more of a pastel flavor.
Well, I mean, we did have the Surreys, which were totally
Well, then I
pastels.
absolutely wanted to bring up the Surreys because
I'm going to go back, and we got corrected by Jerry like we expected.
That's fine.
The most of the early Jeeps were single stage and I don't even know how to say that. Alkyd enamel on the early Jeeps.
Yes.
So just a more technical specification. And then we got Nate, of course, saying he misses the lead paint because it tasted better, but whatever. That's just Nate.
That's what I was wondering
I'm
where
not
the lead
overly-
paint comments were going to come in.
I'm not overly surprised that they were enamel, because AMC used enamel. I know
Sure.
that.
Right.
But overall,
Well, I was going to say, I want to make sure we touch on the Surreys because there might be people who are unfamiliar with that era. And as I was mentioning, this kind of introduction of pastels into the 50s and 60s. And I think there was some cultural relevancy as far as what you're saying, where we were in a rebuilding process globally,
Yes.
and we wanted a little bit of a softer feel. We didn't need this heavy military machine anymore.
correct. And that's why some of the movies and stuff, you see a lot of beach, a lot of fun. They're dancing, that kind of stuff. And that's what the Surrey was made for. It was 2-wheel drive, had a cool fringe top with stripes.
Yep.
And I think there was pink, blue,
And yellow.
and yellow. And can't say Surrey without bringing up our interaction personally with a Surrey was these twin sisters. Their dad bought them a Surrey, and they fought over it.
Yes. And the boys that would chauffeur them around in it.
Yes. So later in life, they got a Surrey, and they went through the Willie's group together, of course, with matching clothes.
Yes.
And they were the sweetest people.
They were adorable.
Yes.
And it was one of the best Jeep community experiences that you
Absolutely.
and I had that really rounds out the Jeep culture.
Yes.
Right. And
with the wide white walls and bright chrome hubcaps.
yeah, because it wasn't just about off-road. It wasn't about just, we get into the originality of these guys who are like, well, it has to be exactly this.
Absolutely.
This was about these sisters reliving the romance of their teenage years.
Yep.
Quite literally and figuratively.
Yep.
And they had big personalities, and they brought this Surrey out for all of us to enjoy. And it was such a beautiful representative or survivor. And I think they ended up selling it eventually to fund some health related stuff, but that
They
was
had
a
a
great
good time with it.
They had a great time, and they certainly made a huge impact on us, and now we're sharing it with our listeners.
Absolutely.
Their story goes on.
And so since we can't bring up lacquer for how paint was on Jeeps because they were cheap and used enamel, I have to tell a little bit of a lacquer story because my dad grew up in the 50s and the 60s, and he sprayed lacquer 98% of the time. And that's where the fancy paint jobs, the custom colors, that kind of stuff really got their start, because he would spray like 10 coats of lacquer. And you had to, when you actually got done spraying it, it was almost opaque. It wasn't really shiny. And then you had to sand it and buff it out in order for it to get that deepness and that shine that they're known for. But the problem with lacquer is it's brittle. And if you bump it, if panel gaps are quite not right, or if the body flexes, it literally cracks and starts to fall off in sheets. So that is the downfall of lacquer. The other thing I thought would be fun to talk about that I found most people don't know, and I believe this was a Jeep thing. I don't think AMC created it, but we always built Jeeps to be kind of a tool, and we got to make sure they were put together and put out quickly. So you put it together, and then you spray it.
Yes.
And that means that between panels and that kind of stuff, you don't really have any coverage. So if you take your fender off your CJ5 and it hasn't been taken apart before, you're going to literally hear a paint go, and you're going to crack that seal, and there should be rust and bare steel somewhere between that seam. And they still basically do that today. So that's why if you take your hinges off or any of that stuff, there is no paint underneath that hinge, because they look at it as, well, if we put everything together, now we're not marring that hardware. We put a good coat of paint over it. It seals that edge, and off to the races we go.
Absolutely.
Now, in the comments here, we've got Gino saying Mercedes-Benz is developing a solar paint. And we'll actually talk a little bit more about that as we get through into the future of paint.
Yes.
But I just wanted to make mention that we did see that comment.
We did, and we will attempt to address it. Despite this riveting conversation about lacquer paint cracking, I would love to take a moment and tell people about U-joints if anybody would like.
We're going to continue on to paint.
Okay, my bad.
Because we got to move into the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
Yeah, 70s, 80s was pretty much the same. Still enamel, still assembling them, spraying them. But we did have some bright colors come out again. We had orange.
It's also where urethane-based paints was introduced. And that's the multi-stage coatings with urethane paint. So the next level.
I just absolutely know nothing about enamel, lacquer, urethane. That's amazing. I'm sitting through this podcast right now recognizing how much I don't know
My earliest
You don't know till you don't know.
I just don't. And I love that through this business, I've learned appreciation. Obviously, Greg, our lead performance mechanic, worked in the paint and body world prior to coming here. I recognized appropriate paint processes, but because I just have no interest in it, it's not something, a knowledge base that I've pursued.
You know what I learned really early on trying to build my model cars with my dad? If you spray enamel and then you put lacquer over top of it, bad things happen.
Oh, it just sloughs off or something,
It
right?
wrinkles up like something fierce because lacquer is hotter of a paint, more solvent than the enamel, and it attacks it.
I am conscious of those things, but it's the beauty of why we are a highly functional business, and we have this process of quality paint companies that we work with. And this is what I always try to tell people, like, we're not trying to hide anything. We're not a paint shop necessarily yet, and arguably we subcontract to
Nice
a
little
number
plug there, yet.
we subcontract to a number of high quality businesses who are experts in their field, you know, because I'm learning so much today in this process.
And the reason that urethane based was introduced is because they were looking for a better UV protection, and we talked a little bit about that with the UV and eating through,
which makes sense
fading
that
off
all
the paint.
these incredibly muted colors that I know the 40s, 50s, and early 60s they had, but then by the time that, they're prevalent to me, they're very muted, they're sun faded, they're baked, they're problematic.
And it is important to note that I really think the metallics start out in the 60s and 70s. That's where you see the really pretty blues with metallic.
Yep.
That kind of stuff.
70s and 80s was the metallics and the pearlescent finishes began to appear.
I want to break it down. What for our listeners, when you say metallic, let's say they don't understand, because obviously I painted my first car a metallic gray. So what is metallic or pearlescent?
So metallic is going to have actually little metal particulate
metal flake, metal
in
particulate.
the paint, and when you go to spray that, you actually have to spray it at the right pattern,
consistency,
and pressure to make that flake stand up or lay down in the orientation that you want, which is why if you have a metallic painted car and you go to try to paint a fender, it's going to have a bad time because you don't always know the way it was done before that. And the more custom you do it, the harder it will be. Same way with the pearlescent. That is an additive that you add to the paint as you're mixing it, and it gives it a pearl or kind of a effect that, again, is only dependent on how it was sprayed, temperature, all that stuff makes a
you
big
basically get a
difference.
one and done shot at it, and
Correct.
it has to be. Which, again, this first car that I did at 15 was a metal flake silver, which, of course, I mean, silver was
silver has a lot of flake in it to start with.
correct, and we added more flake to it.
Of course you did.
Because if a little bit is good, then a lot is better in the Simpson, mantra.
I'm really surprised you repainted silver from red.
I did, but it was a muted red, and I was convinced that I was going to get pulled over constantly.
Of course you did.
Neither here nor
Well,
there.
that was a rumor, and you did get pulled over constantly, but that was not related to
Also,
the color.
see, I did not need any help, is what it comes down to. I didn't need help in the process.
He also didn't use his dome light going down the road because that would get him pulled over. I'm sure of it.
That's 100% true. Get out of my head, Scott. So I absolutely, and that was why our prep process had to be so rigorous.
Yeah.
Because when
We're doing a full color change.
we're doing a full color change, but also the heavy metal particulate, the heavy metal flake, when we went to shoot it, we needed to be able to shoot at one consistent rate.
Yeah, if you haven't lived until you sprayed silver so heavy that it runs the flake, and you can see it really gather in lows and highs on the paint. Don't ask me how I know that.
I was going to say, that is not what mine looked like. I would love to know. I mean, I think that car's probably been turned into a pop can in Asia at this point. But, but yeah, that's what the fate of that car needed to be. But I really would love to see what that paint looked like today, you know?
You don't.
Yeah, I do. I did such a good job.
So if we jump to the 90s,
Yep.
that is the clear coat revolution.
Yes. And they didn't know how to properly do that. I've heard a multitude of different reasons. Reds and whites were really the biggest offenders of the clear just falling off in sheets. That's where we started finding our first vehicles. So you could literally take an air gun and blow out the paint and it would come off in big chunks. I've heard everything from the paint underneath. The clear was too hard and the clear couldn't grab it, that the clear wasn't well made. Multitude of different things. There was solvent still in the base coat when they cleared it. And
Yes, 10 different businesses or individuals. You get 10 different stories.
Absolutely. But in any event, they came off in sheets, and then that initial color layer, because they were able to put a clear protectant over it, was the crappiest paint ever. So the minute your clear went away, your base coat was done.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a myth that you can go and re-clear the base. Not in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
At least maybe if you like the moment it fails, because the base coat is gone in a blink of an eye, and next thing you know, you have the cool rust patina, and that's when Neil starts to like it.
Yeah.
Well, and
That's only when I'm interested.
that's the cutting creams and all of that came out, and you could move the clear around, but really you're just dragging the base and smearing it.
It's
It
all
made a
bad.
mess.
It's all bad.
I still, talking about exactly that, I attempted to wax a car. I had literally started my automotive experience when I was 12 with mopeds and go-karts and stuff like that and building them. And then I got my first car at 15 and then the Jeeps and whatnot. And I did a Monte Carlo with a friend and a whole bunch of stuff. I had this great mixed experience working in the automotive field, not as a student, but as an enthusiast. And I still distinctly remember attempting to wax a car as like an 18-year-old, and I still remember like bringing the car to the high school.
Were you doing wax on, wax off?
I don't even know.
Yes,
it was
you were. 'Cause
so
you absolutely were trying to imitate
Karate
that.
Kid.
I know you were.
It was so terrible when I got it into the sunshine, and I still remember like some guys walking over and being like, "Look how awful that is,"
Swirl the crap out of it.
Swirled the crap out of it.
Yeah.
And I still remember being like, I have done engine swaps. I have rebuilt engine. I was like, again, I didn't go to the VOED or the tech school.
It's a tough mistress, the paint. Yeah.
I had done so much automotively, and I couldn't wax a car.
And really, that's a good way to tell what kind of paint you have on your old car. If you go to wax it and your rag turns the color of the car,
yes,
that's enamel, pretty much. If you don't, then it's got a clear coat over top of it. And if you suddenly do, well, guess what? You've gone through the clear coat at this point.
Well, and that's the thing. I have no idea. I can't even don't even remember the car necessarily. I just remember the feeling of failure because I was like, man, I don't have any idea how to wax this car, how to work with this paint.
It was so easy to cut through that clear though on accident. Absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'd be trying to do the wax job and trying to make it look nice and clean and appropriate. And as I'm waxing, I start to see the faint color in the slush of the wax. And I'm like, that's not good. I went too deep.
Oh, God.
Absolutely.
Right. All right. So we move through. We also, I think it's valuable to mention that the actual metal, the metallurgy that we were using, obviously, in our oldest vehicles was of such high purity content. We've talked about this to this day that we can remove hinges and we can remove lug nuts. We can remove bolts, despite the fact that they've been happily affixed for darn near 100 years in some situations.
50, 60 years, yeah.
And And other than cracking the paint or distorting it in some capacity, relatively unbolts and bolts back together. Whereas the metallurgy by the 80s and then the 90s gets watered down, and so the rust. So as soon as we burn through that clear and base, now that patina is not exactly, it's just flat out rust.
Yes, 100%.
And rusting from the inside out, or the way that panels are layered, is challenging. Think of your YJs and then especially TJ fenders, and the manner in which the panels are layered, the quality of metal they were using, the way that schmutz can kind of get up and creep in between the panels. It literally rusts from the inside out through the paint.
They added foam in between, like on TJ fenders, between the inner structure and the outer structure. They literally put foam in there.
The cavities of Cherokees.
Yeah.
And
Why?
of course, because as a society, we were trying to make our vehicles less utilitarian and more mass consumption. And so ultimately we needed them to be a little quieter. We needed them to have some sound deadening and that kind of robust.
A sponge would have dried out quicker.
I am curious if Jerry has any weigh in on that. If there was a specific reason why that kind of stuff started taking
Because
place.
they needed to sell another Jeep in 5 years. Anyway, so in the 90s is when we started seeing other cool colors again. Into the 2000s, I remember like TJs. We literally have a TJ on property. It's a purple pearl paint. The guy was very excited about that. There was.
I was going to say, I think we've done a tremendous disservice to a large swath of Mopar enthusiasts, and not mentioning Plum Crazy and the.
Well, that's the Mopar side, not technically the Jeep side.
So
there is a fringe
I'll talk
group
about
of our
big bad
listeners.
colors if you want to be,
You want to talk about what?
I'll talk about the big bad colors if we want to talk about actually our, the right seam of the thing, because Mopar's later.
Before we get into the colors there, Jerry did weigh in. He says, automotive paint is a true science and is very vulnerable to so many failure factors that are continually being addressed by the manufacturers as the materials evolve.
And I think that's exactly it. The materials, both that they're painting and they're painting with.
So just
and how they're being applied.
And who's painting it?
Right.
Or what's painting it? Robots were started painting it by the, at
to
some point in
humor
time in the
Neil.
80s and 90s.
So in the late 60s, in the muscle car era, we had to get people's attention by all means possible. So we had to have loud exhaust, we had to have big motors, and they have, for the AMC side, they had the big bad colors. They had blue, orange, and green that were used on the performance cars. And then they also did red, white, and blue cars for their racing and that kind of stuff. Onto the Mopar side, we had Plum Crazy Purple.
Just because someone weighed in, we got Brilla Vision through trying to hold back tears, Tank Green as one of your big bad colors.
I was getting there.
I know, but I really wanted to value his input as a listener. And
We're about 20 years too early.
It's okay.
Anyway,
it's okay.
There was orange. There was
There were
red.
vibrant colors. There were vibrant colors.
There's literally was an ad for this in the 60s for Chrysler that had a car that was chopped up into many different colors that were all about 6 inches wide, and it was every color you could get on that model, and it's the entire length of the car.
And so the only reason I really wanted to bring it up is because in the 80s, following who knows what the heck happened globally and domestically, all of the vehicles turned to poop brown and ugly red and like maroon.
It was a tough time.
It was a dark time. And so when
what's
you
sad,
talk about
though?
re-releasing colors in the 90s, I wanted that perspective to go from the 60s and 70s where we got to the pastels, the lightness, then the boldness,
Yeah.
and then the poop browns.
So it did be fair, because by the time we saw the browns, they were not very attractive.
No.
If you go
And the golds, but not like a good gold, like a mustardy, Colonel Mustard.
They were a time of their era. You got to imagine what, shag carpet and all that kind of
Wood
stuff.
panel walls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that specific brown with a high metallic that was clean and shiny and pretty, like it would have been on the lot, brand new, actually isn't that bad. You let it age to where we started seeing them in a field, and it's just brown. and somebody's painted it 14 times with, red oxide primer and any brown they could find, absolutely, it looked terrible. But if you go back and you find the original untouched and you polish it out, it isn't terrible. I can understand where it attracted someone to buy it initially. Just didn't age well.
I feel like
Now,
I just heard like you trying to explain to your child why they should eat their Brussels sprouts.
That's fair.
That's all I
Literally
felt
what
and
I
heard.
heard. Yep.
Brussels sprouts, and I like Brussels sprouts, but I mean, explaining it to like a 5-year-old and being like, well, they're not terrible if you put enough cheese and butter and hot sauce.
I'll put it in
and
perspective.
bacon.
So in the late, like 78, 79, and it's off topic again, but it's a GMC truck. They had the most awful green. It was not metallic.
I was really hoping we were going to talk about Fall Guy, but okay.
Well, that truck was brown.
I know.
We already beat that
I know.
one.
That's why I thought you were going to Fall Guy, and I was excited. I was there for it.
But that
and then you went
looked
green
cool.
truck.
The green, god awful. It was just, there was nothing exciting about it. It was just green. It wasn't an attractive color green.
GMC, you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, trust me.
I remember
you would
the
if you
Ford
seen it.
green of that era.
Well, they had one as well.
It was
just
also hideous. It was like a
god-awful.
forest, but not even an attractive forest. green.
exactly 100%.
Yeah, but you got me all excited because I thought we were going to talk about Fall Guy. I mean, he drove a poop brown pick 'em up truck, but at least it was
Yes.
cool what he did with it.
I'm going to fast forward us a little bit in time into the 2000s now.
I was trying
to keep us on
earlier.
track. I know.
I was not.
I know.
I was.
But I
you know,
wanna
would
talk
anybody
about-
like to hear about the viscosity and
Listen,
friction modifiers and oil?
We're getting the stuff that you actually know. Specialized coatings and powder coat.
Well, real quick, since we're in the 90s,
He said, Jeff has thrown his production notes. Let me talk about wiring and environmental sealants on
there's
your
a-
wiring in the 80s and 90s. I would like to talk about that, folks.
there's a tie-in. So
Of course, there's a tie-in.
I started talking about on our TJs, there was that cool purple pearl. They also had a green that was also on the Cherokees. That was a very cool metallic green, kind of like a rescue green, but not quite. Me and my wife went to try to buy a Cherokee specifically because it was that color.
What year Cherokee are you trying to tell me?
97 to 99-ish.
So not the green I had,
No, not the
because
green
that
you
was
had.
hideous.
Correct.
Okay, I was gonna say, don't try and tell me that color was good.
No.
My
No, this
97
had-
was ugly as sin.
This had some pearl in it. It was a really cool color. I only seen, honestly, like 2 or 3 cars.
Okay,
That color.
that's fine.
You get into later, we have the orange back again on
Yeah.
the TJ. So why I bring this up is we started to paint Jeeps a cool color to get attention.
Sure.
To get it to sell.
A new market demographic.
A new market
Interesting.
demographic. And
Yes.
as we push into the JK, they went off the rails with that.
100%.
We had custom colors. We then see the birth in the TJ of the black Jeep group, the white Jeep group, the blue Jeep group, and that just lit up even more in the JK, where we had special blues, and then we had people arguing that you weren't blue enough for the blue group.
Well, absolutely.
And you're not actually gray, you're blue, so you can't be part of the gray group, but you're still not blue enough for the blue group. I absolutely went off the rails at some point.
It did. It did. And I think it's so funny because I think you marked it perfectly in the sense that previously these were two utilitarian vehicles.
Absolutely.
And as they wanted to further the market demographic of consumers, they recognized they had to attract people through paint, tire wheel packages and paint, because otherwise those of us who are cut from the cloth where I am, you basically got a handful of dull colors with the same aluminum wheel, and you were supposed to be happy about that.
Yep. And just for Joe, yes, they had tank green. It was like a 2-year only color. Mm-hmm. And it was a homage to the olive drab, but it was shiny. Mm-hmm. And there were literally just tank green groups.
Yes.
Not all greens.
Nope.
And if you went in there with a regular green and tried to post, they would flame the crap out of you.
Yes.
And make you leave.
You had a place in your heart for those tank green.
I did.
You had a green Jeep at one time.
I did.
And there was also a release. There was a Commando tan. There was a tan Jeep that was released.
Yep. There was a gray as well.
They recognized the power of marketing paint and color.
And having that paint have a neat or cool name that people then would clomb onto.
It was great marketing.
And they're still doing it.
And the paint was pretty decent. We had actually started to get a number of things right, other than the actual metal products themselves. Far as
they could just
hinge
not use aluminum with steel and no protection.
and that is obviously where where things go sideways.
We didn't learn anything from the TJ tailgate hinges.
No. Which, I mean, think about the corrosion and bimetal oxidation, which is basically when you're putting aluminum and steel in a raw factor near each other. We dealt with this in TJ's specifically with their tailgate hinges, and yet we thought it would be such a good idea they would make the door hinges this way.
Absolutely.
It's wild decision at the mothership level.
So then we get into again, the craze, the JK starts. You get all the aftermarket accessories. Now people can go put stuff on in their driveway, and that's where the powder coating stuff starts.
Yes.
And Jeffrey, you're off.
So powder coating was a more durable finish for off-road use, and that's what they were marketing it for.
Hurts me.
So it was designed with the intent to be a more. Is that better?
Yes.
Designed with the intent to be.
That's a good way to rephrase that.
And you'll see that really took off on bumpers, skids, and items that were meant to hit stuff on the trail.
And really, it was more so the fact that you could take a product that was made 15 minutes ago and you could hang it on some hooks. You could dust on this powder, walk it into an oven, and within a half an hour, those parts were done and dry. And then after they cooled off, you could then package and ship them. That is where powder coat really got its foothold. It wasn't so much for the durability. It was because of speed to market.
Well, and I think there's actually a conversation to durability as well, because if powder coat is done right, the science of it, it is a very durable
Absolutely.
coating. But most of the cheaper aftermarket products are not trying to do a quality powder coat. They're doing the quick, get it coated, get it out the door.
Even the most, I worked at a place for a while where they made tanks, and they would shot blast the tanks.
Not the kind that go boom in wars, folks.
No.
Like a air compressor tank or a propane tank.
And they would literally shot blast the tanks and then powder coat them. And some got coated multiple times because they couldn't see what color they were doing, and things changed. But anyway, they would still rust where anything was joined.
Any sharp edge.
I think sharp edge, you have less powder there. Where a weld is, it just naturally pulls away from. And even with that nice process, it still wouldn't last.
I think part of the challenge, from being in business professionally at that time, I feel like powder coat was a degree of immediate gratification or almost a direct push against cheap paint. Well, because if you were a good painter and you could honestly prep that bumper, take the time. So use your analogy of, hey, I just built this bumper. If you were to actually go through the prep process and buy the correct paint and spend the expensive amount of money and time and do the paint process the way that you're supposed to, that actually, I would argue, would be more durable than most of the powder coat work.
But it now takes a week longer.
Correct.
To get to use that bumper.
Correct.
Where, like those tanks, for example, they'd come off the powder coat line and they were immediately put on a pallet, shrink wrapped, and going on a truck.
Now, something else that I'm going to bring up that really started to come about in the 2000s, early 2000s, and seems to be launching even more now, would be your rhino linings and that kind of coating.
That really
because
did hit the market.
If powder coating was durable and truck bed liner was durable, why not paint our Jeeps with truck bed liner? And that's really where you first start to see that come out.
And the one thing that is kind of a resounding theme of this whole discussion today is the prep work. Mm-hmm. And we saw a myriad of businesses offering the truck bed liner, and they oversold it in massive conversations, right?
Yes.
This is, I mean, you had armadillo liner, you had hard liner, Line-X, you had rhino linings, and it is only as good as your prep work. and that
Absolutely.
is just flat out the kind of the line in the sand.
And the next thing is how does that have tooth? Which tooth means is how does it grip onto the surface below it? Like on a bed, if you have a paint, and even if you Scotch-Brighted it, if it didn't get down into the nooks and crannies and wasn't able to grab onto that surface, it would come off in sheets.
Oh yeah, you get the bubbling of it. You literally have like the
Pockets.
so you could poke the liner and it would just kind of
And I've
shape
done this. If you have bare steel that was like sanded with a pretty aggressive grit, and then you bedlined it, you could not take it off with a chisel,
right.
because it is so adhered. Now the problem with that is that adherence makes you think, okay, now it's protected from, say, water intrusion because of the porosity of and the shape of the liner. It was not designed to be all your coating in one. It was designed to be a protectant on top. So once you did that, if you laid it out there, it would start to rust in the pockets of the liner. And obviously I was using cheap liner because I was a kid and didn't have tons of money, and I wasn't spraying it professionally, but you don't have the protection then. So you still have to prime it. You still have to have that underlying protection.
Yeah, there's a conversation. We use the analogy DTM, direct to metal paints. Then there's a 2-part paint where you actually need an adhesion promoter of sorts. And these are all things that Jerry had mentioned as far as when
The science of it.
There's science, there are development. You can't just go to Walmart and buy a paint, despite the fact that Instagram has made it wildly popular, and buy this paint and then all of a sudden shoot your patio furniture willy-nilly. You arguably have to know what kind of paint, whereas, what environmental factors to be considered, what type of prep, that kind of stuff. There is more to it.
And sort of on Jeff's thing with the powder coat, another craze that we went through was plastic dipping wheels and that kind of stuff. And what plastic dip started as is you would have a pair of pliers. The handles would be bare. You wanted something of the kind of nicer to your hand. You would dip it in there, let it dry.
Hence the dip.
And then you have a coating on the handles. And someone somewhere saw, well, why can't I paint my car with that?
Put that into an aerosol.
So they did. And then the whole of like, oh, you can just remove it. No, especially not after it's been in the sun and UV and all that kind of stuff.
And I mean, portions of it removable. It depends on how patient you want it to be.
Absolutely.
So then we're gonna fast forward because we're running low on time to the 2010s. What became popular in 2010 era?
Well, I think he kind of jumped around and said, Plasti Dip was absolutely a big push at that time.
I'm gonna
Just tell us.
emphasize. No, I want Scott to guess because I think he can do it.
I thought we were short on time.
A protective coating.
Protective coating.
Ceramic coating. Ceramic coating.
Yes.
Yay! Because I don't care, but here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, ceramic
A
coating became
purveyor of-
popular, and it still today is a relatively
See, I don't think of that
popular
as
product.
paint. I think of that as wax
I
or a
agree.
protectant.
But
agree.
but they're actually painting a ceramic coating on at the factory level now. So it is actually
Which is
a
true,
coating.
because that is actually one of the big pieces, as you were mentioning, of going forward.
Well, again,
I was aware that there's some paint protection packages.
Right.
They absolutely upsell them. You know how you go to the dealership and they upchurch, like, it smells nice in your vehicle, and that's like you pay extra like $50 for that. These paint protection packages. I want to go to the deal if I'm going to buy at the dealership, which most people know I don't. But
they don't sell patina vehicles.
they don't sell patina vehicles there. But I'm just like, you painted the vehicle. You shouldn't have to upsell me on the fact that you did your job. Your job was to paint the vehicle so it doesn't rust on me because I'm about to give you a ton of money.
That's a dealership trying to, again, show value for money, or that's why you come
Absolutely.
to us. I think that's more of a dealership per dealership thing more than the OE manufacturer.
But OE even is trying to build in more protective the ceramic protection with the hydrophobic properties and
They
doing-
gave us aluminum hinges on the side and now aluminum doors that are corroding. So of course they have to do something to show that they care a little.
Somebody's a little
Absolutely.
salty over there.
They absolutely are.
Don't
as
have-
as I oftentimes say, humans are always kind of living in ripple effects, and
Yes.
we absolutely are dealing with this ripple effects, especially with the JLJT, with these massive corrosion issues.
My Sting Gray Jeep has a lot of bubbles,
And
I'm salty.
how do we create consumer confidence? We have to come up with upsells of we're going to now do a protective ceramic coating at the factory manufacturing level. Just paint my vehicle. If I'm paying you that much money, I like pieces of crap, but if I'm going to pay you that much money for a new piece of crap, it should actually be nice. Just paint it. That's your job.
And here's my call to action. Someone, please, for the love of God, make some steel doors and tailgates for these Jeeps already so that the aftermarket can fix where the OE went wrong.
The sins of the OE.
So in 5 to 10 years, when we have vehicles with doors literally rotting off of them, but the rest of it's fine, we can go buy this door, paint it, and put it on the truck or the car or on the Jeep.
Right.
Please.
Some type of replacement panel. So what's the future of Jeep look like, Jeffrey?
Self-healing paint. Jeep is rumored to be currently experimenting with self-healing paint. It's kind of a few different options out there. There's more the elastic polymer where the outer coating is actually softer so that as it gets little scratches, swirl marks, whatever, pinstripes, the sun bakes on it, heats it up, and it kind of molds itself back into place and hides those sins. Now, this technology exists already.
Yeah, I remember seeing a thing on that years and years ago.
Right. But now Jeep is experimenting with application and different ways to make it work for Jeep. And so you've got that. There's the microcapsule technology, which I was telling Scott a little bit about. If you think of a McGriddle from McDonald's, it's got the little syrup pockets in it. At a micro level, that's what this paint is. It's got little pockets of uncured resin in it, so that when it gets damaged, those pockets rupture and fill the void that was created by that damage.
You know what this means, though? It could possibly the death of patina.
Yes, it could. It could. But so you've got the ability for the UV or heat activation. You've got the ability for the micro pockets. There is the experimentation with solar, which was talked about in our comments, where the solar paint essentially has the electromagnetic properties to create energy just from being there.
Yeah, photogenic properties that absorb energy and recharge.
You know what scares me the most about all this?
Process.
Paint's already very, very expensive. If we make it able to conduct electricity or heal itself, how are we ever going to afford to paint it?
I think it's...
But the value of that is that you shouldn't have to continuously repaint, and you don't have to pay as exorbitant of cost to have repairs done if you're one that likes that flawless look.
I'm fascinated by, in general, just as a piece that we can share with our listening base, that good paint is not cheap.
God.
And I don't actually understand that, right? But from a business person's perspective, I am conscious of that. We don't sell paint ourselves, but we're very in tune with what's happening in the industry, and an attempt to find suitable alternatives to what's available.
And this is kind of a fun way to look at it. So back in the day when we were growing up, you'd always hear about Earl Scheib $99.99 paint job.
Yep.
That is $5,000 at this point.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
A Mako job. Earl Scheib eventually turns into Mako on a coast to coast kind of acceptance. So if you're listening to us, you might have heard of Mako, but Earl Scheib was the first.
Yeah,
and you're right. I mean, that's a $2,000 to $5,000 paint job, and you're just getting a spray and go.
And if you want a really quality, nice, something we can be proud of, it's going to last a while.
You're starting at $10,000 in my opinion.
And you're going to almost 30, I would say. And then you've got your really custom finishes go up from there.
Yep.
That's insane.
Correct.
And which is why most of my cars have primer on them.
But if you're looking at the future and you're talking about why would the self-healing paint actually be beneficial to get on some of these production vehicles, realistically, it's the resale value. It's not, obviously my truck, I'm going to go beat it off road. I don't care about the paint. It is what it is. The bruises tell stories kind of thing. But
you're a patina guy.
Yeah. But if I was buying a $100,000 Wagoneer, and I want to trade that in 2 years, 3 years, like a lot of people do.
Yep.
You don't want all those scratches and those flaws to be visible when you go to the trade-in. So if you've got a self-healing paint on there, it goes back to the dealership looking flawless. That means it can resell for way more. So the dealership's going to give you more for your trade-in.
Yeah.
So there's a long-term value-added bonus to that kind of paint.
Yeah, it does not depreciate the same way that our vehicles. I mean, we used to consider a 30% depreciation from the point of leaving the dealership lot.
Right, and I
so
think
if
this
you
changes
can,
it.
If you can, kind of reduce some of that depreciation for the consumer, they will arguably say, yes, I value this. That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see when that kind of stuff rolls out, you're going to see it in the Jeep world when it rolls out. You're going to see it on the higher ends, the 392s, the Wagoneers, the Grand Cherokee Limiteds, things that are going to cost more money to begin with.
I really like the idea of the solar, kind of process to be regenerative. Again, that appeals to my kind of industrial's nature, that I want to push the bounds of electrification.
I think that one is further out because of the efficiency nature of it.
It's definitely cool though.
Yeah, it's really, really
well, and it would help
concept.
sustain range issues that we oftentimes talk about, considering we just talked about that last week or so.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of different options for that as well. Because imagine putting a steel roof on your house that then somehow makes your house power.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of different options that specific. You're gonna be an industry onto itself.
Correct. And I hope that one day it does kind of become. I mean, I see the value, and I think that probably as we advance our paint technologies, we'll probably have to do one or the other initially. Mm-hmm. And I think that Jeffrey talking about the self-healing probably will get advanced over the, kind of the solar-induced paint, just based on that valuation, that resale value, and the ability it will maintain and keep my vehicle looking as new as possible. That's a cool perspective.
I think and this is my prediction, over the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of solar paint options at shows and events, but I don't think you see that roll out in the next 5 years. I think you see the self-healing paint rolling out in production within the next 5 years of Jeep.
I agree with you.
Especially with a lot of these paint protection and Jeep trying desperately to regain their relevancy and jumpstart sales that have largely struggled over the last few years.
And I just wanted to reiterate, we're specifically mentioning this on Jeep because I know that these paint types exist out in other markets.
Well, we're always
higher
behind.
end markets, but they do.
We're always learning from other markets out there. All right, this was a good one. I hope that you cared about it, because I certainly didn't, and and that you thought it was beneficial. If you do, we would encourage you to go ahead and make sure you like and maybe leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. Additionally, consider sharing it with a friend, family, or your local Jeep group to kind of get them into a whole snooze fest about paint, because,
This was Neil's least favorite topic of the year.
I thought the guys did great, and it is one that clearly our community cares about, just not me.
He's just bland because he's got a silver Jeep and it just blends into the background.
It's just so boring. Today's paint is so like the color palettes by the mass consumption is so bland and boring.
Which
versus
is why
the
I love
Surreys and the.
I think that's why I love that Jeep's been putting out those unique colors like Tuscadero or Rain, which is that new purple that's out.
Yes.
There's some really cool colors that pop against the majority of
which isn't of itself such a Jeep thing. We are the enthusiasts, the community who is going. We are driving point A to point B, but we want to do it with style. We want to then know that if we're going to point A to point B, we can also go off road in the process and still get to point B. You know what I mean? We are that group.
And Giaga Jeepers just made a paint drying comment saying wasn't as bad as watching.
And on that note, Jeep family, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Right?
I know. That's why I had to share that last last minute comment because I
Little tidbit.
was like, wow, that's just perfect for you.
Yes. Oh, without question. Let me suck down my 11th cough drop.
I know. I'm not happy that I'm sitting next to you.
I kept going. Can people hear me moving it around in between my teeth?
Yeah,
and, like, am I crunching on it?
Yes, they can.
Oh, okay. Well, they probably when they heard that we were talking about pay, they probably shut it off 55 minutes ago. So
I mean, we got bigger numbers than we've had for a couple weeks now.
That's because because again, I'm wrong.
All I know is that this is going to outdo the flat towing episode.
It is. As it should. So let me get
Why don't you care about flat towing? I want to know, why does nobody care about flat towing?
Because paint's more fun than
I
flat
don't
towing.
understand it. Why am
Watching
I the
paint
weirdo?
dry is more fun than
Why am
talking
I
about
the
flat towing.
weirdo? I just don't understand. Why am I wrong?
I don't know.
So anyway, I'm gonna get us back on topic. So Saturday, it was a beautiful day. Went ahead and broke the 36 out of winter jail, and we went out for a drive, had a nice dinner.
You had
Went
it
to the
away
beach.
for winter jail already?
Well,
You're the worst.
it's always on this time of year. It's always this could be the last.
I mean, the fact that he's gotten better at this
That's
is
fair.
remarkable, but you're still the worst.
Yeah. Anyways, so then on to Sunday, Jeff came over and got his working whip and got us done on the
You were
smack.
the one cracking the whip because you just stood there watching. What are you talking about?
You guys managed to do it before the monsoon?
Yeah.
Nice.
We were,
I was worried about you guys by 2 o'clock. rolling
Jeff
around.
was a machine.
nice.
He was very efficient.
Hour and a half it was?
I pretty much an hour and a
outstanding.
half. I was just trying to give him everything he needed. Like, you need power, here's some power. Here, you need some water, here's some water. You need me to
You
was
were
a
a
great
good errand
gopher.
boy.
He
you
was
need
a
me to
great
wander
gopher.
around and just loosely tell you, facts while you work. I
No,
will
it
do
wasn't
that.
facts. It was, well, I'm really concerned that we're going to run out of this. I think I'm worried about this. And I just had to keep reassuring as I'm going, nope, we got it. We're going to make this work.
We had to count bags of concrete a couple times.
We did.
Somehow we ended up with an extra bag. I still don't understand it because we were going to be 7 short, and then we were 1 positive. And I was okay. It's just-
I made some changes to strategies to make sure we
Okay.
utilize our materials appropriately.
and I was very worried because the ground was very wet, and we poured some in, and it was just water that was slightly gray colored. And I said, I'm gonna trust
Trust the process.
You're gonna
trust
like
Jeff
this.
the builder.
The first hole, I dumped 4 bags of dry concrete mix in.
Uh-huh.
There was no evidence of any concrete in that hole.
Nice.
And I'm like, well, we need to modify what we're doing here because this isn't going to work.
No.
We are going to run out of concrete this way.
See why I was worried about concrete?
There was a lot of water.
My concrete guy was worried, so I'm like,
But the hole was very deep, deeper than it needed to be, and there was a lot of water in it. And I'm like, this might be a problem.
Oh, boy.
And I will tell you, before the monsoon happened, it did look appropriate, and I am still very traumatic triggered that we're going to have bad things. I just had to embody, like Jeff's like, once it's poured, water is good. Once it's poured, water is good. But as it was pouring, I was like, please don't hurt my concrete.
The nice thing is that they are underground footers, so water coming down on the surface of it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, too much water is bad, but as long as we got it poured and got it set, and we did use the mixer, we actually did mix most of the cement.
Yeah.
It was just the first couple bags of, there's so much water, let's just throw some dry in there to absorb some of this water.
Mm-hmm.
And appropriately, he's going to have good solid footers when we're done.
Excellent.
So that in a nutshell, and then I just tried to prep for a pending doom of the 4-letter word, cleaning things and throwing stuff away and finding homes for things and that kind of stuff as well.
No.
Yeah.
Give him shutters over there.
I just don't, I don't understand you. I mean, I get it. I do. But
Fun goes away. It gets dark so early and dark in the morning, the dark times.
God, you're the worst. Well, I'm glad that you guys got it done before the monsoon. I really was thinking about you guys and hoping that you had accomplished what you had accomplished. Now, the one thing you did mention about 36, which, folks who are following along on your personal social media may or may not know, but I certainly recognized
Yep.
was what?
I put the hood back on.
I didn't know you had a hood for that car.
You did too.
I did not. I saw the photo. I'm like, what's on the? Is that a hood? He's got a hood for that?
We were moving stuff around the other day, not yesterday, but the day before, a couple days before that. And Amy's like, "Could we just put the hood on the car?" Yeah.
Why did she want the hood on?
Gets it out of the way.
Gets it out of the way.
It's so much cooler without a hood on it.
Yeah, that's true, 100%. But I was like, fine. It actually goes on pretty fast. Like literally, I started the car up, backed it out of the driveway. As it was warming up, I put the hood on.
It's just been avoiding it because it was cool without it.
You don't have any side panels though, right? You can still.
I have them. They're not primed to match the other paint, and because of prior trauma of priming my vehicles multiple different colors, and then getting them called a cow.
Yes.
I'm not doing that to this car.
Let's be honest. And the thing is, folks who are following along do not really get the appreciation of what your Gremlin looked like. But your Gremlin did look like a cow.
It was blue, gray primer, and red oxide primer until my wife, then what she was a girlfriend then, sideswiped my dad's van and with the quarter. And then we painted the quarters, reprimed them gray.
Yeah.
So then at least it was just 2 colors instead of 3.
Yeah. But it did. It was
Not good.
it was not good. And it was that way for 15 plus years.
It's still that way.
Oh, get out of here.
That's funny.
If anything was ever more AMC Gremlin than that, I don't know what it is. But that just kind of embodies the whole vehicle.
So when I went to prime things on the 36, I was like, I need to prime them a color that sort of blends in with the rest of the car so it doesn't look god awful while I'd never paint it.
Well, I never paint it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting to see the hood back in the mix.
Yep.
And where do you have that stored for the impending Snowmageddon?
Well, right now it's on the cold side of the garage,
Okay.
tucked up as far as possible because I thought I could sneak something in behind it, but the car's too long.
Yeah.
So I'm currently
Going through an existential panic.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm hoping to have a structure to put it in before snow falls.
He thinks we're going to. I mean,
Whoa, my God. I love your look of determination, Jeffrey.
I told him, I said, at this point, we're committed. We can't let the snow fall and bury his holes and start over in the winter or in the spring again.
I've gone through I'm in the grieving process at this point.
In the grieving process.
So Jeff is my little light at the
It's we got to get the framing up.
I was going to say, you can at least set the poles.
yeah.
We have no choice. Well, set the poles and get the framing done, because if you set the poles and don't frame, all your poles are going to warp and you're going to have a worse situation come spring.
I guess I was thinking of the poles being set and not
Hatched.
trust, but
Correct.
I'm missing the word right now where you have them straight up and down, but
Yeah.
for the life of me, I'm losing the word reinforced is all I can
Last year beat me so bad that it was like a spring day and then impending doom.
Yeah.
We will have 10 feet of snow
I'm
instantly.
Hopeful that we don't experience that again.
And I, since I ran into that with my wife's bougie she shed, which Jeffrey and I started a year ago, my project was to, while I had largely had it dried in, I did not have my door and door framing and all that kind of stuff. So that was my weekend, was to ensure that the she shed was completely dried in, and we could start moving her stuff in there so that we could seek some organization to kind of restructure, as I've got tools everywhere from different projects. And so
the shed is officially winter usable.
The shed is officially winter usable,
Nice.
and I'm thrilled about that. And that was a big portion for me this weekend. Of course, having the standard athletic pursuits and whatnot. And I do want to just kind of give a brief shout out. Not that anybody super cares about the sports balls among our base, but I had a fun experience. My kid playing fall ball, baseball, because he ended up playing both football and baseball at the same this year. The organizers of Kingsville Area Little League, which is a neighboring town in which my kid played for, had the most fun costume game yesterday.
Oh, that's cool.
So kids showed up to play baseball in costume.
That's
And
fun.
So what was the trend?
There was a lot of ninjas. There was some zombies. My kid went
Any
as a
inflatables?
Ghostbuster. So one of the coaches of one of the opposing teams came as a giant chicken, inflatable. Kudos to him. The older kids didn't indulge as much, but like our shortstop played with a banana head on, and it was this deep sense of Americana. And I guess I'm bringing it up because the weather was gorgeous yesterday morning prior to the storm.
Yeah,
coming
it
in.
was.
And as a whole, I mean, there was 4 to 6 to 8 games happening yesterday among this complex. And the games were supposed to happen later in the day. Emergency messages came out to everybody. Hey, we're moving everything up. If you can get there, it's basically going to be shortened or kind of in and out. I think we actually only played 3 innings in an hour and 20 minutes or something. But it was this great mobilization. And again, kids showed up to have fun, and everybody, they played music. And then they finished with a trunk or treat.
That's
and I
cool.
just thought, like, we need to celebrate some of this, like where we actually came together in a unified capacity to just enjoy some of the things that make our culture such a fun and unique and diverse experience. They got to come as they are, whether they wanted to be dressed up or not. That was fine. Everybody got to participate in the trunk or treat regardless. And it was just a neat environment and a great way to end a very fun season.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
On Saturday, after work, I ended up driving down to the Grove City Outlets to have dinner with my best friend from high school for his 40th birthday. Had a good time there. And then we probably sat around that table for 2-3 hours. Drove
Nice.
back. It was 11 o'clock at night by the time we got back home. So
You-
and then I was up doing concrete work.
You missed the best part of that experience.
Oh, I should share that. Yeah, because I told him about it. So while we went to Permane Brothers, and while we were there, on their menu they have this really cool drink that's a duck drink. So they're catering to Jeepers in that regard.
Sure.
And I thought that was pretty fun. I made a comment about it. I was like, that's fun. Maybe I'll have to try that drink one of these times. And when we leave, sure enough, one of the Permane ducks is on my door handle.
Oh, get out of here.
It was just a little tiny baby duck, and I'm like, I think I got ducked by Permane Brothers.
Yeah.
And I walk up, and sure enough, it's got the logo on there. I'm like, so either somebody got the drink and threw it on my Jeep as they were leaving because they know the Jeep community enough, or Permane actually is going out actively ducking Jeeps in their
That's
parking
really
lot.
fun.
Sure. And it's important to note for our global listening audience that this particular, so Permane Brothers is a regional restaurant
Started
out of
in
Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Yep, out of the Pittsburgh area, and has expanded. And this one is actually kind of on the outskirts of where Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival takes place.
Yes.
The one that you were dining at.
Yeah,
So
it was only 15 miles from there, roughly.
makes perfect sense that they would kind of indulge this highly motivated and organized group of enthusiasts, and that's a super cool testament to them as a company. So.
Oh, and if you haven't been to Permane Brothers, if you go to Bantam in June, go check them out. There's several in the area, but they're affordable. They've got great sandwiches. You get some of that Pittsburgh feeling to it with the coleslaw on the sandwich and the fries on the sandwich. So just an all-around unique
Yep, love
experience to this region.
Yep, love it. I've eaten at the OG down in the city itself. And,
Yep.
and very fortunate that Western PA supports them appropriately. So, all right, folks, we are going to cut it at that point, unless there's anything else for the good of the masses. Outstanding. We've got a lot of Jeeps to build. A lot of work to do. We are less than 2 weeks away from SEMA, where we will have 2 spectacular Jeeps on display. A incredible testament to the very fiber of this business, and in both kind of celebrating both Scott and Greg's diligence to the Jeep community, and then ultimately the entirety of our team supporting that process. and bringing our customers' dreams true. And so we're going to have those on display on a global showcase, if you will. So make sure you follow along some of the coverage for that. And obviously, in that process, you can tune into Jeffrey's Tuesday live updates and kind of see some of the projects and some of the vehicles that we're working on at any given time. So until next time, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Jeep on.